Nora, can I have screen sharing perms, or are you going to take care of that for this meeting?
I can give you permissions. Hold on just a moment. Stay updated.
Nora, will you please add me while you're doing that?
Yeah, I will add,
Thank you.
let's see. Where are you, Lizzie? Is your camera on? Or sorry, Emily, is your camera on? I can't.
My camera is indeed on.
Okay. I don't see. Oh, there you are. Okay. Let me just. Okay, you're a co-host, so hopefully that will give you the ability to share. If not, okay.
All right, and with that, I will call to action at 3:03. So, welcome everyone to our first assembly meeting. I've made us a lovely PowerPoint. I hope you enjoy it greatly. But firstly, I want to say welcome. This is very exciting for me as well as you. I'll actually go to attendance form while we're doing this. Go ahead and scan that. Put your name in, then you're done while I speak. This is my first semester as a graduate student, so I'm learning with all of you, but I have enough experience in the assembly and senate space to be confident that we're going to have a very productive assembly session. And I'll give you guys a couple more seconds. Then you guys should all have that PowerPoint so you can pull up in the background if you need to. But as I said, welcome to GSG. I'm going to give you the spark notes of my history. I've done a lot at UMD. I was here for my undergrad, majored in information science and philosophy of politics economics, which is PPE, so two programs. Graduated back from my master's of information management, and I'm doing a certificate in nonprofit leadership. I've done a lot of work in RHA. I was the president last year, so I have a decent history in student governance. And now I am here to be your vice president of legislative affairs. We will do executive introductions in a minute, but first we are going to do our first order of business, which is welcoming Associate Provost and Dean of the Graduate School, Stephen Roth. Welcome.
Emily, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for having me today on the first assembly meeting of the 46th GSG. That's great. I do have some slides to share. So, Emily, if you don't mind, we'll switch screens. All right. Does that all look good? Thumbs up. Excellent. All right. So, folks, first, let me welcome those of you who are new to graduate education at Maryland. Let me thank those of you who have been on GSG before. Certainly the executive committee folks I've worked with already this summer. You play a really important role on GSG. And while Keegan and the others can verify that I always push that you are students first and always students first, you do play in a really critical role in representing the graduate student body and helping the campus do all it can to provide an excellent graduate education. So the executive committee reached out and said it'd be great if you could provide a bit of an overview to the graduate school, a bit of an overview to my role and some of the folks on my team. So I'll try to do that briefly and then open the floor for Q&A. So the first thing you'll notice is that I am one of two deans on campus that also has a second title of associate provost, and that will be an important distinction. The other one is Bill Cohen in undergraduate studies. Ultimately, our roles are unique and remarkably collaborative. So the graduate school effectively serves as a central hub for all of graduate education on the campus. We have 12 academic schools. You are all a member of one of those. Some of you might even be a member of two if you're in a unique dual degree program. We have over 230 graduate programs, about 85 doctoral programs by last count, the rest being master's programs. We've got lots of certificates as well. The graduate school is sometimes referred to as a referee. We try to ensure as much as possible an equivalent experience across these 230 different degree programs. That's quite a task. How can we help ensure that the student experience in journalism and art history and engineering and psychology are all roughly similar? That's really challenging. So that's where the graduate school comes in. We effectively oversee a number of different elements of graduate education. You are probably most familiar with the academic side of the house. We manage graduate admissions. We receive over 20,000 applications for graduate school admission every year. We oversee and assist with the programs in enrollments, student records. We oversee policies as part of the graduate council, student petitions, degree clearances in collaboration with the registrar's office, and graduation. But we also oversee a number of different fellowship and awards programs. We provide guidance on graduate assistantships and their benefits. And then we provide a bunch of resources as well. So we have the Center for Writing and Oral Communication. I encourage all of you to take a look at that. A lot of career and professional development activities. Those events have been recently posted. You'll start to see those in our Pathways newsletter and social media. We have an academic counselor who oversees leave of absences and other student wellness activities. We also work closely with the graduate ombuds officer for the campus and assist with student incident reporting and grievance navigation. And I'm happy to answer questions about that as we move forward. So my role in particular is both strategic and operational. So especially my role as associate provost, I work with the provost's senior leadership team to help shape the direction of graduate education for the campus and connect it back to our university's mission. Graduate students are central to the success of this institution. Our faculty, many of whom work on research and scholarship that is tied directly to graduate student activities, means that this is a really collaborative venture where our students succeed, our faculty succeed, our universities succeed. So that's part of my role, is setting direction and working to ensure that the provost and president's vision for the campus is met with the activities in graduate education. It also means that I need to serve as an advocate for both graduate students and graduate programs. You can imagine that while we have 40,000 students on campus, only a quarter of them are graduate students. And that sometimes means that undergraduate students they have the loudest voice. And so sometimes it's just simply me being on a committee and reminding folks that, hey, wait a second, we have 10,000 graduate students on campus. Let's consider how this policy or other process is going to work for those students. The dean role is much more operational. I oversee a team of about 30 folks within the graduate school who manage day-to-day our policies, standards, admissions, data, career services, and so forth. They're a phenomenal team, and I'll share a couple of the key members here shortly. And then ultimately, this position is remarkably collaborative. In effect, I have no students as grad dean and all the students. I have no faculty, and yet I have all the grad faculty, which means I have very few levers, but I have to collaborate and work closely with programs and colleges to help move campus in a positive direction. So I work closely with students, especially GSG, colleges, grad directors, and the various programs and senior leadership to solve problems, but hopefully more than solve problems, actually help to make the university a better place. So the dean's office, I have 3 close associates. Dr. Evelyn Cooper is our assistant dean and chief of operations. she basically runs the show within the graduate school. She oversees we have roughly 5 different teams within the graduate school. She ensures that those are working seamlessly day to day. Dr. Jason Farman is our Associate Dean for Academic Programs and Policy. He leads our policy efforts in collaboration with the Graduate Council. Graduate Council is effectively graduate education's version of this campus senate. We have our own ownership, if you will, of graduate policy with the Graduate Council, and multiple members of GSG are members of that Graduate Council. And then Dr. Angela Bees is in her 2nd year as Associate Dean for Graduate Student Success. This is a relatively new position, and it is meant to work directly with graduate programs to find ways to strengthen student success and belonging on campus. So I want to emphasize just how important GSG is to the success of graduate education. You as student representatives and as the executive committee, you bring to me and to the graduate school and senior leadership campus-wide patterns that we can see. You have the test cases, you have the students who fall outside of our policy best practices and help show us where our policy services and communications can be better. And so throughout the year, both in formal meetings and informally, I listen to student experiences. I also sit on the Provost's Graduate Student Advisory Council. I sit on the International Graduate Student Advisory Board for ISSS and hear what sorts of issues are raised. I've got multiple members of my team who also sit in different sessions with students. Ultimately, with GSG, we consult and partner together to talk through potential policy implications and ensure that what we are envisioning is going to work for the most number of people. And then ultimately, we need to close the loop. And that means bringing policy change to the Graduate Council, convincing the Graduate Council to move these formally into our policy and graduate catalog. And then we repeat the process. And so throughout the summer, the GSG Executive Committee and I have met to talk through some of their priorities. I've shared some of our priorities, and we will continue to do that throughout the year. So I do want to end with just a couple of the policy priorities that we have for this year. Since the spring, we have been working on academic freedom policy language specific to teaching assistants and graduate student instructors. We are very close to finalizing that and hope to present that to the Graduate Council in their first meeting this fall. This is something that the campus leadership supports. We have been working very closely with the Office of General Counsel to make sure that the language is appropriate and that we can get this onto our graduate assistant policy very soon and in effect for the fall. The other, frankly, more challenging policy is one that we hope to tackle this year, and that's around AI and the use of generative artificial intelligence in comprehensive exams, theses, and dissertations. That's a very sticky challenge, one that Jason Farman will be taking the lead on, but we'll be working very closely with the Associate Deans for Graduate Education across the colleges, as well as GSG as we move forward with some policy language there. I've put a link at the bottom of this page that you can go through and see all of the different policy changes that have happened in the last few years that I've been serving as dean. I'm currently in my 4th year. Recent policy improvements include last spring, we pushed through a number of changes and improvements to our advisor change policy. We've improved English proficiency testing procedures. We updated language around the non-thesis master's product outcomes. We also added last year resolution officers for graduate students in each of the colleges to provide another source of support when students are feeling that they need help with a conflict or other concern. And then we also moved forward a couple of years ago, improvements to our parental accommodation policy for all graduate students and graduate assistants. And I want to point out that the parental accommodation policy, the resolution officer, and the advisor change policies, those were driven in large part by GSG and your feedback coming to us. And so I'm not just blowing smoke when I say that the work that GSG does improves the campus, and we work very closely together to find ways that we can improve policy to advance graduate education. And with that, I look forward to opening it up for questions. Thank you all. Virtual clapping, I appreciate it.
And if anybody has questions that they don't feel like saying currently in the assembly, are they welcome to email you with anything or email your office?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So don't hesitate to reach out. I think that is one thing that I do want to emphasize, that while the graduate school kind of has its lane, we also work with basically all of the other offices on campus. Don't ever hesitate to reach out if you have a question, even if you're pretty sure the grad school isn't in charge of it. We probably know who is, and we can work to help get you the information that you need. And that goes for me too. Don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. I don't know that I have any scheduled just yet, but I have tried to do at least 4 to 6 office hour times each month throughout the academic year for students to drop in, ask questions. Those will be posted within the newsletter here shortly. Yeah, don't hesitate to reach out. And those concerns that you don't necessarily want to raise with me for whatever reason, and I respect that decision, you've got your GSG exec board. They're happy to bring these concerns to me as part of our formal sessions. And it's not uncommon at all that your president will reach out and say, hey, can we have a quick chat about something? And we'll do that. Nora, I saw your hand up. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I think you actually already answered it. I was wondering when you said graduate student instructors, if you meant instructors of record. And I think you do, because I went to look at the advisor or the policy updates, and it said instructors of record. So, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So what we are envisioning with the academic freedom policy is that it's not just teaching assistants, graduate teaching assistants who are in need of this, but ultimately those who are instructors of record. And we do see that in some of the colleges where later stage graduate students will be charged with kind of leading an entire class. And so they're not necessarily teaching assistants, but they are instructors. And so we want to ensure that that academic freedom language is comprehensive.
Thank you.
I will also emphasize that although I, in my capacity as president, work with a lot of administrators, in fact, I was on a long hour-and-a-half call with Bridget from Stamp just before this, as an example of just one of the many meetings I have. That said, though, our working relationship with the grad school is especially strong. I think that it's probably one of our strongest relationships, and we work collaboratively on all sorts of things all the time, including over the summer. So I mention that because if there is something you have a question about the grad school, or something you'd like to bring to the grad school's attention, as Steve has mentioned, you can reach out, but also let us know, and it will come up. It'll come up probably within a couple of weeks. Is how frequently we tend to meet with grad school. So yeah, one of our best partners, and just wanted to make that point now.
Yeah. Thank you, Keegan.
Seeing no questions during that time, Steve, the rest of your presentation is yours. You have the rest of your day back. Thank you for coming to speak with us.
Folks, thank you for the opportunity. Good luck. And again, thank you for your advocacy. Appreciate it. Take care.
Alrighty. Let me find my tab. I've lost it. We are going to move swiftly on to our second order of business. There we go. Which is swearing everyone in. So first, I'm going to have Keegan and Lizzie introduce yourselves. We'll do that first, and then I'm going to invite Blessing, which is our advisor from the graduate school, to swear them in, and then we'll go to General Assembly, and then we'll have the last of our executive introduce themselves.
All right, I guess I'll start unless Lizzie wants to, but I think my name's, yeah, there we go. Yeah. Hi, I am your elected president. My name's Keegan. Pleasure to meet you all. I am a seventh year, sixth year, seventh. I don't want to think about it. Some year of PhD candidate in journalism studies. I swear this is my last year. I swear. I started GSG as a representative for the journalism studies program back in 2022. And since then I have been a variety of things, including committee chairs, director of operations, and now a second term president. And I am always happy to hear from all of you. Reach out to me with any big picture questions you have. By that I mean if you have a question about how GSG aligns on something, or how we might interact with the system of Maryland, or if there's something that you are curious about that is maybe bigger than any one of the officer or executive staff positions might encompass, feel free to approach me with it. Or if you just have questions in general, I'm always happy to chat. And I look forward to having a great year with you all.
I'll go next. Hi, I'm Lizzie Obacher. I know what year I am, but I refuse to say it for PhD candidate, in government politics. So yeah, I'm the vice presidential for financial affairs and student fee matters, which is quite a mouthful. I treat the GSG executive board like Pokemon. I have to get them all. It'll be my last year. So I've been a rep. I've been the vice president for legislative affairs. I've been director of operations, and now I'm this position. So anything budget related, come to me. We also do have funding opportunities. So if you're a part of another graduate student group, we can fund your event, and we have grants for grads, which we're pushing really hard this year. And then I also both myself and Keegan sit on all fee setting units. So docs, Recwell, athletics, I'm trying to think of the other ones right now, and then blanking stamp. They all have different advisory boards that we sit on and talk about where our fee money goes and try to convince them not to raise it again. And if you have any questions, though, about your fee or how that money's used or where it goes, you can come to me for that.
All right. Okay, Keegan, you're first. Blessing, whenever you're ready.
Sure. So repeat after me.
You're not going to read me the description,
Oh,
the preamble?
well, okay, I will. Will
I've
you
heard it before,
please
but you know.
approach the podium? You have been constitutionally elected president of the graduate student government. It will be your duty to preside at meetings, to enforce impartially the bylaws of GSG, to function in every respect as the chief administrative, managerial, and executive officer of the graduate student government. It will be your duty to guide the officers and directors in developing the aims and objectives. You are charged with the responsibility for the proper functioning of all of the committees with the support of the committee chairs and chief of staff. Keegan, you should at all times be watchful for activities, projects, and programs which will be helpful to your executive committee, committee chairs, assembly members, the graduate student government as a whole. You must become familiar with Robert's Rules of Order and the graduate student government bylaws and constitution. In the last analysis, the ultimate success of the organization rests in your hands. Keegan, are you prepared to take the oath of office as president of the graduate student government?
Sure am.
Great. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me the oath of office. Okay. In the presence of honored guests and the members here assembled,
In the presence of honored guests and the members here assembled,
I, Keegan,
I, Keegan,
do solemnly promise and pledge that I will faithfully execute the duties of the President of the Graduate Student Government to the best of my knowledge and ability.
uh, I do solemnly promise and pledge that I will faithfully execute the duties of the President of the Graduate Student Government to the best of my knowledge and ability.
To commit myself to the student government's code of conduct, code
Uh,
of ethics,
to commit myself to the Student Government's Code of Ethics,
further the objectives of the student government,
further the objectives of the student government,
and assume full responsibility for the honorable organization.
and assume full responsibility for this most honorable organization.
By the authority vested in me by the graduate student government, I now proclaim you duly installed as president. I congratulate you upon your election.
Thank you.
Yay, I love all the clapping.
Happy to
And
have you formally back.
yeah, round two. Here we go. And I think now it's all the vice president's turn. Oh, no, first I'm supposed to give an abbreviated address. That's right.
Oh no, no, you're right, you're right. Did you have a slide you wanted me to present? You're just gonna talk.
No, no. If it wasn't abbreviated, I might. But I'm just gonna say, hey everyone, welcome to the 46th standard assembly of the GSG. We really do appreciate you being here, especially because we know that there's a lot going on, and your attention, like ours, is being spread a whole lot of different ways. And we also know that there's a lot that might be worrying you, such as changes to duration of stay, changes to permissible time to completion for programs, and all sorts of other issues, including, but not least by any means, our upcoming unionization of the graduate student body on the 28th or in 2028, I think around this time. I don't know if the date's been set, but a lot of stuff is happening. A lot of stuff is requiring your attention, and that is why it is especially important that you're here right now. Everything I mentioned, we are involved in advocating for our constituents on behalf of, setting policy at the university level, and having some really difficult conversations sometimes with everyone from the vice president of student affairs to the president of the university to the chancellor of the entire system, and sometimes even Congress. So what we do matters, and we genuinely could not do it without all of you. And right now is a particularly important time to be part of this government. So thank you. With that said, I think it is my turn to have the vice presidents awkwardly stumble through an oath of office with me. So I had to suffer. You guys get to as well. Lucky you. So I will also note that we do have two executive staff who are not being sworn in. That's because they are hired separately from this process, and also because oaths of office are usually not done for staff, but they follow the same principles. So if you're wondering, wait, why isn't the director of operations also? That's why. Okay. Let me find that spot. Swearing in vice presidents. Okay. Will the vice presidents please rise and approach this very real non-digital podium? All right. I was hoping for maybe some walking emojis. I don't know. We'll take it though. The office of the vice president is an important post. It will be your duty to preside in the absence of the president. As such, to conduct the duties that are specifically prescribed in the student government's bylaws, you must immediately familiarize yourself with the rules of parliament procedure and the bylaws of the graduate student government, because you are the ones who get to actually enforce those. Are you prepared to take the oath of vice president of the graduate student government? If so, I guess I'll wait for a yes, hopefully.
Yes.
All right. In that case, please raise your right hand and repeat after me the oath of office. In the presence of honored guests and the members here assembled,
In the presence of
Honored
honored guests and the members here assembled,
I do solemnly promise and pledge that I will faithfully execute the duties of the Vice President of the Graduate Student Government
I do solemnly promise and pledge that I will faithfully execute the duties of the Vice President of the Graduate Student Government
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
to commit myself to the Student Government's Code of Ethics,
to commit
commit
myself to the
myself to the
student government's code of
code of
ethics,
ethics,
to further the objectives of the student government, and to assume full responsibility for this honorable organization.
to further the
further the
objectives
objectives of the
of the
student
student
government,
government and assume
and
full
to assume full
responsibility of this
responsibilities of this
honorable
most
organization.
honorable organization.
All right, by the authority vested in me by the graduate student government as the president, I now proclaim you duly installed as vice presidents. Thank you. All right, now it's everyone else's turn. But to make this go a little smoothly, and because in the past we have tried to have everyone repeat after me, and it just became a loud cacophony of awfulness, and we're going to just not do that, especially on Zoom. Works a little better in person. What we're actually going to do is you can stay muted and just raise your hand. And if you can't turn your camera on for whatever reason, I don't know, raise your hand emoji. That'll do. I'm going to assume that if you don't agree with this oath of office, that you'll tell me and then resign, and because that's the job. But also, if you have any questions, let me know too. Okay. With that said, this one's fortunately pretty short. I'm just going to read through it straight and assume you're following after. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me the oath of office. In the presence of honored guests and members here assembled, I do solemnly promise and pledge that I will faithfully execute the duties of the Assembly as a program representative of the graduate student government to the best of my knowledge and ability, to commit myself to the student government's code of ethics, to further the objectives of the student government, to serve my fellow graduate student community through engagement with my constituents and voting according to the preferences of my constituent body. And with that, by the authority vested in me, the graduate student government, as the president, I now proclaim you duly installed as program representatives and voting members, Graduate Student Government Assembly. Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much, Keegan. I'll hop back over. And now I will invite Nora and Sydney to give a brief introduction for what they do on the exec board.
Hi, everyone. I'll go first. I'm Nora. I use they, them pronouns. I'm a PhD candidate. I'm going into my 5th year, I think, in epidemiology and biostatistics. I am the director of operations this year. I have been a representative for the last 4 years, and I can't be a representative for 5 years because that's what the Constitution and bylaws say. So I'm now the director of operations. And as the director of operations, I help organize most of the events that GSG puts on. This includes the annual academic conference called Graduate Research Appreciation Day. And then I also help put on fun little social events like graduate prom and Halloween party. And if there's anything that you want to see happen, come to me. And if you want to be on the academic grad conference, I would love to have you. Love to have some help. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like that ending's the perfect introduction for me because I am in charge of committees and staffing those. So I am Sydney Overton. I'm the chief of staff this year, was on the assembly, and then was in Lizzie's spot as VPFA last year. Switching gears a little bit, chief of staff, I am in charge of running all of the committees and really like to think of myself kind of as like the behind the scenes support staff of making sure that you guys can like do what you want to do. So if there's anything that you're like, I want to do this idea but aren't sure what the next steps are, I'm the one to reach out to, and I'm literally GSG committees at umd.edu.
Thank you both very much. Moving swiftly along into the report of the chair. First, we are going to confirm rules as is in the document. Full rules. This is just a list of everything that you would assume needs to be said in order for us to run GSG, and more specifically the assembly, plus some Robert's Rules stuff. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to say if anybody has an objection to these rules, speak now, forever hold your peace, or raise your hand, and I'll call on you. But you're welcome to speak. Fantastic. We are going to consider that confirmed. And then this is not a confirmation, I'm just telling you, you have a calendar and a Robert's Rules in this fancy little document over here. There is always the very slight chance that something over here changes, but for now, this is what it is, and you should have all received calendar invites for it. There's a little explanation in there as well. And then lastly, you have a much more condensed version of Robert's Rules for you to follow when making motions and the like. And now we are going to go through the executive actions. So this is a list of all the executive actions that have been taken in the break period of assemblies. Basically, when we're not meeting and the exec board is the only people running, this is what we had to do in order to maintain proper functions, I guess, in all of its capacities. I was going to say assembly, but it's everything. I'm going to give a summary of each of these points purely because we have quite a lot of executive actions to go through. And then at the end, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to ask for objections, and if there are none, we will continue. And if there are some, we will enter a period of debate. So, firstly, our Graduate Assistant Advisory Committee, or GAC, as you will hear it referred to henceforth, failed to hold elections last semester. Because of this, their dissolution was triggered, and we decided as an exec board to expedite the process to dissolve it immediately in order to give us enough prep time to make GAC viable in the early semester rather than in the late semesters. Basically, we got an extra semester of the committee being able to function. Similarly, the next executive action was, how do we do that? What's going on with GAC? And there was 2 points listed. One, vice president, me, I became, or vice president of affairs, I became the person who was in charge of handling questions and concerns for GA ships or otherwise graduate assistant employment. And then the president became responsible for chairing the committee, but mostly just in the in-between and until it is its own viable organization. And that is also the same for everything as is bolded until the committee is able to resume normal functions. That was what the action was covering. For 3, 4, and 5, we temporarily formed budget, rules, and elections. Budget was formed in order to hear against grants request over the summer period because we did not designate a closing time. We did not end up hearing anything, so that was a little bit preemptive. For rules, we had to form it in order to handle stuff for special elections, in order so, that we can get it up quick and spiffy. And then obviously elections be the same thing. Special general elections requires an elections committee. Lastly, there was in our last meeting in May, there were a couple of points in our omnibus bill that had been passed, but the wording of it was a little confusing. We decided as an exec board to act as though everything that could have been enacted as of the May 2026 assembly would be considered having been enacted. So if it was passed in that assembly, we considered that to be the moment that it took action and not at the next assembly. Be so ordered. I don't have to say that, but I'm saying it to be specific. It is ordered by the acting president, you, Keegan, Clemens Hauser. That is how it worked. So
Although, if I may, point of information, brief point of
Yes.
information. So regarding the interpretation of the omnibus bill that was passed by the last assembly, the confusion arose from the fact that some of the things were actionable and when passed by the previous assembly should have been enacted in that moment. And those were changes to the bylaws that were just contingent on things that have been raised to that session. Some of the stuff, however, requires changes to the Constitution that have not happened yet and may not happen yet, depending on how these amendments are approached by you and then the general body. So the things that could not be enacted because it relied on changes to the Constitution that have not happened yet are still pending. So just to make that clear, it was only the stuff that could be passed. If that makes sense. And if not, I can explain again and offline and email me.
That I will open it up to objections or debate if they are so present. I'm seeing none. Therefore, all 6 of these are going to be regarded as passed. Moving swiftly along into new business. So the first point is what's likely going to take the longest, and I'm going to hand it over to Keegan to do some explanation of it, but you were all sent these amendments 2 weeks before this very assembly. All of these are getting voted on or will be put into the constitutional referendum. Yes, Keegan? So your job at this point, the reason you're being asked to vote on this is because it has to go to you before it goes to the rest of the graduate students in a general vote. So you are voting to push it forwards in a state. I will get to that as well. But I am calling for a motion. Well, I would look favorably upon a motion to consider.
And I will point of information again, as I'm just going to keep doing and being that guy. So it was brought to the attention of Rules Committee after it had been, this had been forwarded to the Assembly for consideration that this amendment right here, yes, and Julian, exactly, we're getting to that. I'm explaining the reason why, but I appreciate that. So I see we already have a second. I will explain anyway because it's a point of information. The problem with this language is that it describes the chairing of this position of this committee being a chief of staff position. The chief of staff does not appear in the Constitution, which means you cannot assign it to a position that doesn't exist within the document that it's referring to. So positions in the Constitution need to be chaired by an officer. So the proposal is to change it from the chief of staff and the VPLA to just the president because I am tasked with being on GAC. I'll get to that, but that is the reason why this change is being put forward.
A little bit ahead of ourselves. I am first going to look for a motion to consider the amendment at all, and then we'll look at an amendment. So firstly, may someone please, if you'll be so kind, to motion it to the floor.
You can also do the chat, but you can also
We have
do
a
it
motion
verbally.
and a second in the chat.
I will see motion from Aaron and a second from Julian, and then retroactively, I will recognize the motion to adjust the floor amendment from Julian and a second from Aaron, entering into a 5-minute period of presentation and a 5-minute period of debate.
Well,
Julian,
I think, yeah, as I say, Julian,
put what the floor amendment is into the chat.
That's the easiest way.
And then can you also clarify what you'd be striking? Just copy and paste what you want to strike.
Or in other words, the original sentence. Yeah.
The last sentence.
Yeah.
This committee shall be staffed by the Vice President of Legislative Affairs and chaired by the Chief of Staff, would be stricken and replaced by this committee shall be chaired by the President. You may have, I don't know, do you want 5 minutes to discuss or do you think that's self-explanatory enough? I'm going to go with self-explanatory enough. We will enter a 5-minute period of debate. If no one speaks within 30 seconds or motions to speak within 30 seconds, I will move it to a vote. Your time starts now. All right, seeing no questions or debate, I will move into a vote. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to say all in favor. You are going to raise your little hand emojis. We will count the raised hands emojis, and then I will go all against, and I will go all abstaining. Any questions? Going to assume no. All in favor of the proposed amendment, please raise your emoji hand. I am seeing, I'll give it a couple more seconds. All right, I am seeing 12. Can I get confirmation from other executive board member? 12 is our final count.
Are
I
you
can't see.
counting Jim in the comments?
No, I'm sorry. Should I be? No,
Yeah,
we're
Jim.
looking at raise hands only.
Okay, yeah, okay. Jim says raise hand in the comments.
Okay.
So it would be 13.
And I just got one more.
No problem, Jim. We saw you.
So let's, including Jim, that would be 14. I see 13 in the chat, or 13 in the raised hands. Please lower all hands. Just a couple more left. We're going to lower all the hand emojis. For Charity and Jessica, you're the last two. Okay. All against, raise your hand emojis. Seeing none, I will move into any abstaining. Please raise your hand. Seeing none, this amendment passes with a vote of 13-0. We'll move back into a period of debate of the amendments themselves. I will give you 30 seconds, seem to be a little too long. I'm going to do 15 seconds this time. If no one speaks within those 15 seconds, we'll move on to a vote in these amendments. Your time starts now.
Point of information or point of clarity, rather, we are voting for all of these at once or individually.
We will
Or
be voting
not me,
for.
but you know.
We are voting for all of these. This is an amendment package. They are all being considered at the same time. We are voting for all at the same time unless there's objection to one in particular. And I will see a moved vote from Aaron and a second from Julian unless there are objections. We'll be moving into a period of vote. We will do it the exact same way. I will call in favor, against, abstain. That would be that. All those in favor of the proposed constitutional amendments, raise your hands.
Jim has raised his hand in the comments.
Sweet. Going to call it there. I see 12. Please lower all hands. All those against, please raise your hand. Seeing none, all those abstaining, please raise your hands. With a vote of 12-0, this amendment passes and will be pushed to constitutional referendum in our special general elections. Thank you all very much for a very streamlined process. All right, next we're going to be moving, we're going to do 2, 3, and 4 all in the same group, and then I'm going to pass it over to Sydney to talk to you. Actually, well, I'm still going to pass it over to Sydney, but we're going to talk about committees after that. So we are going to be reforming rules, elections, and budget as they currently stood over the summer. That just means that the exec members that were on it already are going to stay on it until you guys select which committees you would like to be a part of. As far as I'm aware, reforming committees is just a matter of me telling you we're doing it. If you hate it, tell me, we'll vote on it. But I presume you all will be okay with that because you had to select if you want to join, and that will be the last thing we do a part of this PowerPoint. But I will give you that courtesy for a couple of seconds should you favor to vote against. Yes, Nora is correct. All representatives, as like you are on the assembly, you must serve on at least one committee. That can be a standing committee, that can be an ad hoc committee. Doesn't matter. You have to serve on at least one of them though, or else you are not fulfilling the duties of your seat. And you can serve on multiple. I recommend serving on at least two. If you're really gung ho about stuff, you can get to learn a lot about campus, meet a lot of cool people, do a lot of cool things. But you are required to serve on at least one. No, well, they're the only ones that will exist for like a week. But we will be forming. Yeah, thank you, Keegan. We'll be collecting answers for all of the committees in the form that we're going to look at in a second. but we're putting these three committees, rules, election, and budget, into an active state right now in the event that we have to actually do something with those committees because they work with the actual function of the government. And then, seeing no concerns, I will move swiftly along. Sydney, would you be so kind to explain our committees and our governance committee to our lovely assembly members?
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and start with the difficult one, which is governance. It is a little bit different, as Keegan likes to point out. It is not actually a committee. It is the governance board. It essentially acts as our judiciary aspect of the graduate student government. So it is tasked as the expert for anything constitutional, and as part of that is also responsible if there's any sort of impeachment or infraction of the Constitution or bylaws. They are the ones that oversee that impeachment and investigation process. We love years in which governance is inactive, because that means that everybody is doing their job correctly. With forming governance, it's a little bit more complicated than just signing up. There are three aspects. So the assembly votes on 3 representatives to serve on the governance. There will be 1 executive member elected by the executive committee. That is going to be Lizzie. We have already done that. And then there will be 3 students outside of the graduate student government that will be appointed by Keegan. And will be made aware of, the assembly will be made aware of during the September. And then during September, we will finalize the formation of governance board. With that being said, the part that we need your guys' help with, yeah, and Keegan in the chat is helping with that. And so to help facilitate that, when everybody is giving interest, and I will just go ahead and send it, giving interest to what committee they would like to be on. If you're interested in being a part of governance, let us know. That will be passed on to Keegan, and then we will finalize that. The thing is broken. Oh no. That's because I put a period. Lame. Hold on, I can fix this very easily. There's just a period that somehow got snooped into the... There. Fixed it. So if you're interested in governance, sign up for governance. That will be passed along to Keegan, and then we'll figure out the approval during the September assembly. All other committees, and we have so many committees that if you have an interest, there's probably a committee that is doing it. I've gone ahead and laid out on that form. Take your time, read through the many options that you have. There's academic affairs, community development, which goes hand in hand with what Nora was saying about events. Yes, Nora.
I can also, when we get to one of the committees that I chaired, I can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. But on that committee form that is sent, I've described what is called the committee charge. So what is the purpose of that committee? And then we also have brainstormed some specific goals for that committee for this year to hopefully help kind of inform what you'll actually be doing as a part of that. As a reminder, you must sign up for at least 1 and be an active participant, and at least 1 as part of being a program representative. Because we have so many, I don't really want to, we've got time. I'll go through them really quick. The TLDR, local and civic engagement, that is all about supporting civic engagement, both in College Park and more broader. So think, how do we get graduate students to vote? Community development, like I mentioned, that is all about improving social integration of grad students and getting them together at events and social spaces. academic affairs, all about academic policies and how those are affecting grad students and having a voice and making sure that graduate students are a part of those discussions. Community and belonging. Nora, do you want to go real quick?
Yeah, community and belongings, fund, formerly DEI. You meet monthly, and you also get to have the opportunity to meet with the vice president of community and belonging, who used to be Dr. Georgina Dodge, but is now, I think, searching for someone
Yeah, I
else.
don't think we have one.
There's an interim person that you'll meet with in the meantime. But some of the things that we've done in the past with the Community and Belonging Committee includes like advocating for affordable housing, which falls under other committee work as well, or falls under other committees as well. We've also advocated for better bereavement policies that includes more extensive like LGBTQ families or pet bereavement or non-canonical, non-biological families, so that many more people in the community are considered under the bereavement policies now because of that. So if you see something, we can talk about making a resolution or legislation on it. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's community and belonging, formerly DEI. Student affairs, I kind of like to think of this as the catch-all. Anything about the graduate student quality of life, living conditions that include mental health, transportation, safety, all of that, student affairs. So if you're not sure exactly what you want to do, student affairs might be a good option. Similarly, a little bit more specific, we have international student affairs. This is specifically advocating for the interests of international graduate students. This is going to be, it has been important in the past as well, but very important given some current climates. GRAD, which is the Graduate Research Appreciation Day. This is the conference we are hosting on April 7th. We do it every year, and the entire purpose of this committee is to plan and market and execute GRAD so that it's successful. And yes, please join. Legislative action is monitoring everything from local to federal legislative and policy development. Governance talks about. And then budget and finance, that is Lizzie's domain. That is looking at how one of the fees that every graduate student pays is the graduate student activities fee. That comes to the graduate student government, and BFC, Budget and Finance Committee, is in charge of dispersing that. And that's largely through making sure the government runs, but also opportunities for funding for student groups and individual graduate students. Rules gets the privilege of looking and approving all the agendas for the assembly meeting and working with Emily very closely. And then very self-explanatory, elections runs elections. So I'm happy to answer any questions about those. Please also, if you're really not sure and don't want to answer or have any questions now or don't want to ask them now, go ahead and send me an email and I can kind of point you maybe in the right direction. I put 3 as the top, but I don't think it's ridiculous. I am also on the executive board, so I sign up for too many committees. I feel like it's part of the role, but I think 3 is fine. But I didn't want people to sign up for more than 3 because then I think we get a little excessive.
If you're also like really zealous, you could chair a committee.
Yes, and that is a question on the survey. So I did put on the survey, if you're interested in chairing a committee, there's a little bit more to doing it. Obviously, you're going to be in a more of a leadership position with running those committees, and running and working on a report that is reported out every month what the committee did, and then serving on what is called the leadership committee, which is just a committee of all the committee chairs. So there's a little bit more work with chairs, but if you want, a step up, that would be a great option.
Right, thank you very much, Sydney. And I will also say, chairing a committee, like, don't let the responsibility scare you. I've chaired committee in RHA. I've seen people chair committee, been friends with committee chairs. Like, it's if you are passionate about the committee you're in and you want to have like a sizable impact, not just on the committee you're in, but what it's representing, be a committee chair. You will enjoy it. It will be fun. But just understand that you are signing up for a little bit more of a time commitment. And that brings us to the end of the majority of our content. There is one other thing I want to bring up, and that is that we are in a soft search for a parliamentarian. And that just means that if you like Robert's rules and you want to look at legislation and see how it works and understand a little bit more, it's not a teaching role necessarily, but like you're going to be the person sitting there with bills and reading it and making sure like, yeah, this makes sense. It follows all the things. We recommend reaching out to me or the office. You can, I would say me, message gsg-vpla at umd.edu, and we will chat about your experience because we are looking for one. Lizzie, correct me if I'm wrong. This will be a stipend role.
Yes,
It'll be
it
a
would be
stipend
the
role.
exact stipend hasn't been figured out yet. It depends on when you're hired and how many assemblies you would work and if there's any extra assemblies, anything like that. So TBD for pay, but it would be stipend.
But reach out if you're interested, but only if you're actually interested. Like you will need to lock in a little bit, but it will be fun for those of you who are Parley Pro minded. Yes, Nora.
Can you be the parliamentarian and a representative?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And that is it for content, other than the shout out that we are doing nominations right now. If you have a friend in a different department,
There's a
yes.
question in the chat.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, Keegan got it.
I'll
It
speak
is
to it a little bit more. Yeah, just to explain. So committees are kind of think of them as miniature assemblies, right? You are your own self-contained body within GSG. So whatever your membership votes on is what you do. In my experience, it's usually remote with in person when it's like chairing, staffing an event, or if you actually physically need to work on something like an archival project. But often it's online. So.
When I chaired the Belonging and Community Committee, we were mostly remote except for the last meeting, and I was able to arrange getting food for everyone on the committee. So if you ever want to, have your committee meetings on campus and you want to feed people, let me know, the Director of Operations and the VPFA. Thank you.
Yes. And then I think lastly, like I was saying, we have nominations open right now for a special general election. If you have a friend who could be on GSG and wants to be on GSG, make sure they self-nominate, or even better, just nominate them. You can nominate them, and then they will get that email and be like, I wonder what this is. We encourage both. But other than that, you may have the last hour of your day back, unless my executive friends have anything else to say.
Well, I would say we should open up for open forum if
I
anyone
have
has
one
thoughts.
point of information about those nominations. We are also we heard all about GAC earlier. Part of those nominations is for GAC. If you are a graduate assistant to make GAC functional, we need members of GAC to be nominated and then voted in. So if you or someone again feel free to nominate them as a GAC member, which is separate than being a program rep.
And I will, as the current chair and hopefully constitutionally recognized chair at some point, let me explain GAC briefly, because not everyone knows what it is. So GAC is a special committee, special standing committee, and that just means that it functions between sessions, unlike most committees. It's not reformed every year. People are elected for 2-year stints usually, or two-year stints, I think. Sydney, we didn't change that, did we?
Yeah, so 2 years for PhDs,
Yeah, right.
1 year for masters.
Yeah, so it's not reformed every year. It is effectively the pseudo bargaining unit for graduate assistants when interacting with administration on matters of pay or benefits or leave requirements or things like that. It's also where you can raise assistantship specific questions directly to the admin. GAC has four formal meetings a year, and then a couple of other informal meetings. And two of those four formal meetings are with the dean of the graduate school, the provost, the VP of administration, and a few other people. So you really do actually have a chance to directly bring your concerns to the administration, and they are obligated to give responses in a somewhat timely fashion. So it is, if you want something that can't be ignored, that is a good body to be part of. So if you're interested in doing that and you're a graduate assistant, consider it.
Nothing else?
There's a question in chat, which I did not set up the form, so I will leave that probably to Sydney.
No, I just checked, and the name is at the very top.
Oh, yeah, I was just putting a message. I did realize that I did a little bit of a, whoops, stupid. Yeah, can you refill out if you've already done it? Because, yeah, no, there was no name at the top. So if you already filled it out, no, it wasn't collecting emails. And I thought that was a automatic thing, and apparently it was not. So, yeah, if you don't
Live and learn.
mind. Yay! So, yeah. And then I'll send it in the assembly as well, the assembly G chat. You guys have till next Wednesday, so no giant rush if you're not sure and want to think on it.
You will have a week. But with that, you have the rest of your time back, and I thank you very much for coming out. We look forward to serving with you, and we hope you ask us any questions if you have them. But with that, please have a good day, guys. You're free.
Unless anyone has questions for us, because we can't have open discussion.
Jillian does.
Okay.
Oh no, or Aaron, sorry. But about chairing. So chairs are actually elected by the committee. So let's say you join student affairs and you're interested in chairing. Sydney will call your first meeting of everyone who is interested, and then we'll elect a chair in that meeting amongst all of you. Yep.
Yeah, that question on the form is more so for me gauging from a planning wise to make sure that there's someone in each committee that is interested in chairing and making sure that we're distributing so all of the committees are functional. And yeah, I am the temporary chair until the first meeting, and I hand it off.
Like, are we in open forum now, or do we officially move to open forum? Okay, cool.
If
Sorry,
there's
I'm not used
any
to that
topic of
being a
discussion.
thing on the agenda. In RHA, we would just dismiss you all, and whoever wanted to stay to talk to us would stay to talk.
Yeah,
What's
we
that
have it in
reporting for open forum?
we typically have, that's why it is open forum and not after the meeting.
Yeah, I would keep the recording on. We close it.
No,
just
keep
not
it on
till we're done.
unless we close session. But yeah, this is for people to bring up things that didn't make it into the agenda because they just happened, but still might require a vote or conversation at least, that sort of thing.
Does anybody have like any big questions about what GSG does, or any top down, bottom up?
Side to side.
Backwards, forwards?
If not, we will not keep you captive. This is genuinely just so that's one thing I will briefly explain while you're all here. This is a aspect of a parliamentary system that not every governing body has. Because the assembly drives everything we do at GSG, you also have the power to just vote on things and set policy as you see fit. And if it's not something that was able to get into the agenda, open forum is often where that happens. So that's why we always hold space, even if you don't need it, because it has come up and there have been some pretty important decisions made in open forum. So. Yeah, I'll talk about that, Jillian. So it's weirdly not nearly as formally connected as it is at a lot of different universities, the University Senate and GSG, or SGA for that matter. We do have 3 of our executives sit on as voting ex officio members of Senate committees, but we do not have a vote on the Senate, which is unusual. And we might be having that change at some point, but that is the relationship, is however much we want to do with collaboration. When we've had members in both, it's actually really nice that you're a senator as well, because we can do joint legislation and things like that and have it pass both bodies at the same time. But it is a informal and collaborative relationship, not that official. But they are our like a sister organization. So we are a shared governance body akin to the University Senate and SGA and RHA. So like those are how all those bodies kind of work together. And together we set a lot of policy. So
We also do community events and community work and collaborate with outside of the institution as well. Yeah. Okay.
That's
freedom,
it. Freedom. Goodbye, gang.
adjourn this.